All right, we made it another week with the Trash Cast with your host Mathias, along with the boys.
John.
And Will.
Yes, it's a regular Will. Like I said, we're gonna need to get you a character and put you next to the fire.
Well,
Since you seem to be so much of a regular.
If we have the budget for that, I know the trash fire doesn't feed itself.
If only I made money off videos. I think I need like 1,000 subscribers, if anything.
There we go.
We'll work our way up.
Almost.
Well, I think we made it to like 30. So we're climbing. But 1,000 seems a little bit out of the way right now. Maybe if I wasn't so busy and got more content out there.
Like this.
Hey, this is just for fun,
But is it also not content?
It is content.
If you hear this and you hadn't heard it before, it's a brand new podcast to you.
True.
Even we don't know what we're about to say.
Well, we never have anything scripted. We just have a topic, and then we just talk from there. That's all we get. But I would like to know, Will, you don't have to answer this right now, but if you were to be a character around the campfire, trash fire here, what would you want to be? Just out of curiosity.
That is so difficult. There's so many things with horned helmets across Warhammer that I like. I mean, the one that probably jumps out the most is a Chaos Warrior, just because those goofy dudes with giant horned helmets is just it's what Warhammer is all about to me. Even when it's not all about that, like they're still there in the background, waiting to go march south and destroy the Empire. Even if the Empire has already been previously destroyed by Archaon, like they're still ready to wait for an Empire to spring up again so they can march south and destroy it.
Oh, so you'd be a fantasy Chaos Warrior.
Would be.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, but to be fair, the exact same scenario could happen in space. You could be, in one subsystem or something, right, on your battle barge and with your horned helmets, and then you hear that the Imperium has moved into a planet south. That doesn't make any sense. A planet under you, and then fly under you and destroy them.
Hey, I mean, isn't that how Age of Sigmar is? It's just a bunch of like floating rocks, only connected by like webway gates or something like that.
You kiss your demons with that mouth?
I try to stick away from them,
Speaking of demons.
Okay. Segueing right in there.
Most natural segue, well.
We got the next collector's coin, which will be Be'lakor with a Chaos Undivided symbol on it. I don't know. Are you guys collecting these coins at all?
And our friend Donnie is, but I unfortunately haven't been able to buy enough stuff recently to get them, so he's kind of short a couple of coins.
I'm collecting them just because they happen to me. Like I just be like, oh, I get my stuff, and then it's like, yeah. By the way, you've qualified for an upgrade. You get a coin. Like, oh, sick. What coin is it? And then I don't remember which coin I already have. So I have like 3 Slanesh coins. This one is cool just because it's a Chaos Star. Though I must say it would have been pretty funny had there been a picture of Be'lakor's face on the coin.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Like a Chuck E. Cheese token.
Heck yeah.
Redeem this for a new game system.
Redeem this for some chaos favor.
Insert into Everchosen, and then all of the models will turn into circle bases. But this is really cool. The pink horror is a little funny because the pink horror, as the article points out, is like for the free miniature is one of the most like randomly sort of sculpted of those like units that they could possibly put in. So like your pink horror could have 2 to 4 arms if you're getting a free one. But yeah, it's cool.
Well, they could have given us like a brimstone horror or a blue horror, but pink horror works just as well, I guess.
These are paint and build too, so it should be fun.
Oh, these are easy to paint.
Another build.
Oh, and to build.
What is an easy to paint is like Are you talking about contrast paint or?
No, I mean, pink cores aren't that hard to paint.
That's true, and you can paint them a bunch of different ways. Like there are a few miniatures that are like that benefit more from painting it not like the box. Like literally, if you paint it almost any other shade of pink, I feel like you can get a cooler looking pink horror. Like these models are all about, you know, what what you decide to slap on with them. And particularly like I mean, the coolest pink horrors I get to see are like the ones that have like wet blending going on between like transitioning colors in the flesh,
Mhm.
between like the hands and like the core of the body. Um, the model has a lot of potential, so it's actually kind of a fun idea to make this like the model of the month. Just for people who've never painted something like this, it's very different because this is like the fleshiest thing they've had for the free models so far.
Yeah.
You
Like it
know,
has no armor at all except for its little bracelets.
free to go wild. That's the great thing about demons. You can just paint them pretty much whatever you want. I know Greg, who's been on this podcast before, he has a whole demon army, and he just painted each faction like the opposite color. So
That's really cool.
you got like
Oh, that's a
blue
good idea.
blood letters and uh like trying to remember his army.
Don did an entire army of blue corn at one point.
Yes, I did.
The blue bound was awesome.
Yeah, maybe if I ask him to send some pictures, I'll put it up. But yeah, his whole demon army was all just different colors, opposite colors of what they should have been.
That's really cool.
So always fun time. So I think after that quick look at this, we can go to the Sunday preview, which should have just been renamed the specialist game preview because that's all we're getting here. You're
Good for me.
finally getting the Underworlds, Soulblight, Core to the Soulblight, Crimson.
Definitely pre-ordering that. Those are great models. I think
Yeah.
because of Person City, I'm going to be doing vampires for Warcry. So
Yeah.
lots of options here for some characters.
That we were talking about it off the cast, but the leader of this Underworld's warband for I think for me, I think that's like the best vampire on foot that you can get. The blood dragon is so amazing.
It is a nice looking model, but I don't know. Some of that the Curse City one looked pretty nice, and the new Model Monday one, the one with the rats,
There's been a couple of them because there was
the
there
one
was
with the rat cape. That one looked
the
nice
rat
too.
yeah, Kritza is really cool, and there's the female vampiress whose name escapes me.
Yeah.
Who was sort of cool if anything just for like how simple that model is. Like when we go to like GW, we sort of expect lots of crazy details and stuff, and like I think for it's nice to have a little bit of variety in terms of that other model like didn't really pop out at the time, but like thinking about it, like yeah, there's not a lot of stuff that looks like that because typically they've got like trinkets and keys and daggers and pelts and stuff all over them. So just the sheer variety of vampires we're getting now in plastic is amazing.
Yes. And they're gonna do a good job when we hopefully see more releases for them coming out whenever their army gets officially leaked out instead of the few that we've seen already. Let's see what else we got here. We got this is new, right? The starter set.
Yeah, this is just like a starter set to introduce your friends to Warhammer. So I'm gonna assume like some fairly simpler warband mechanics for these two,
Yeah.
because as Underworlds has, as the years go by, the warbands definitely get more complex. Not in a bad way, but if you're introducing someone new, it might be nice if the inspire mechanic was like successfully defend instead of like hold an objective and kill someone while on it after you play a gambit or whatever.
Right. You make a good point on that too. There's also there's no wizard in either of these warbands, so they'll probably be a pretty good jumping off point to learning how the game goes before you get into the more complex warbands in the game.
Perfect. So we're getting that as well this week for pre-order. There's the bands. There's they got the dice. I assume that's coming with this. No,
These are incredibly ugly, but
I
sure someone likes them.
I agree. The purple's nice. I like the purple. The teal and gray look awful.
Marbling like this is not the kind of thing that occurs to me to put on a dice. I can't. I'm trying to imagine what sort of pip color they could make that would be readable on that. And it's hard to say. Red, maybe?
I don't know. And I think maybe red. I can see it popping out. But any dice that are colored like this, I immediately hate. Just because it's hard to read.
Yeah. The purple ones are very nice.
The purple ones are nice. I like that. That looks nice. Let's see what else are we getting. The digital they're advertising, which has been out for a long time. Adeptus Titanicus, the Horse Heresy, Loyalist Legions.
Absolutely not getting this, considering I play traders. But for those slaves to the Corpse Emperor, well, it's not a corpse yet. Pick this
Soon
up
to be
for
corpse.
Soon to be Corpse Emperor. Yep.
I love this is the Loyalist Legios and how sinister this cover looks.
That's very Horus Heresy.
They look like they're coming to burn down your trees and dry up your oceans and enslave your people.
Which they will if you
Well,
don't pay taxes to the Administratum.
Yeah, you gotta follow the Imperial truth, or we'll Volkite laser you.
well, you see, you're the heretic, and this is your POV of what's coming to you.
You walk out of your tent and you see this, and you're like, I'm starting to regret my life choices.
I've made mistakes. All right, the rulebook. I didn't really read this. Are they updating the rulebook?
No, it's just you couldn't get it by itself. You could only get it with the rules in the rules kit, which includes templates and all that. But this is if you just want the rules. This is the first time we're able to just get the rules by itself.
Wow, just now? This game's been up for 2 years, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could get the rulebook. It just was packaged with templates and tokens and objective markers. So this is the first time you could just get the rulebook by itself and not have to pay extra for templates and all that.
Got it. Okay, I thought it was only from the 2-player starter box. Okay.
No.
Perfect. You get that.
Speaking of starter boxes, though, they have a new starter set. It looks like.
Yep.
Do they?
First of all, we have the new War Master Titan.
War Master Titan coming
I
in
do want to
here.
pick this up, but not right now. I have too many projects to work on, so I'll just this because it's not going anywhere, right?
What? Too many projects? Come on, you can never have too many projects. I've got a whole closet of shame, and I can still add to that.
3 boxes, still not too bad. But yeah.
Yep.
I mean, this is super cool, but and again, for you guys who know me, this is one of my favorite games, Tabletop Titanicus. But this doesn't scream buy me to me. I think it's awesome. I don't think it's incredibly hype that I want this now kind of thing. It's one of those things yeah, I want this eventually, just not that excited about it right now.
I see.
Kind of thing. But it is awesome.
And there's a big model comparing it to all these other Titans I'm looking at right
Yeah,
now.
I think the prices were leaked. This is $160, which makes sense considering it's probably the size of an Imperial Knight, which is the price. So, pretty sizable.
That's a lot of plastic.
There's a lot of plastic.
All right. And so going down from that, we got Blood Bowl.
Well, before that, we got the starter set. The
Did I
the
skip it?
Manifold Battle Force.
Did I skip it? Is it the
Yeah,
one
it's
with all
right
the?
after. Yeah, it's the one with all the Titans.
Oh, okay. So we got
this one. Oh, go ahead.
I said so. We got a new box set, huh?
We do. So this has a Warlord, a Reaver, the new Titan, second newest, whose name escapes me, and 2 Warhounds. And this was leaked to be 185, which is a that's a steal. considering a warlord by itself is like 110, the Reaver is $60. So you're paying $15 for, you know, the other Titan and the Warhound, which
Yeah,
is
this is an aggressively priced starter set, which is exactly what this game needs.
Well, I mean, if that big Titan's going to be $160, yeah, I'd say this is a pretty good deal. If it's going for what you said, 165,
185.
185, yeah, this is a pretty good deal. Basically, getting like 4 models for free right there.
Yep, pretty much.
So, would you recommend this to new players then? To pick up this box? Because it seems like it has everything in it, right?
I would still recommend splitting the rules set with a friend, the actual starter set with the rules and the because this game is you kind of need templates and the terminals to play this game, which has like the markers and stuff to track your shields, your titans, and reactor core, etc., etc. So I do recommend if you haven't started Adeptus Titanicus, I would recommend getting the starters, the actual starter set. And if you're hooked, then this is a great next purchase. As it's kind of like more like I start collecting, while the starter set is the actual set. But this is amazing. And if you just want the models, man, this is a great deal. 185
Yeah.
almost.
If it's really 185, I mean, I think the weirdo middle Titan what's it, not Warmonger.
Warmonger, yeah.
Warbringer?
Warbringer.
That guy I think is like $100.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. He's up there in price.
So that would be if those stats are correct on the pricing, this is an excellent start collecting equivalent. I think you got it on the head there, John. Because the other starter set is much better to like get two people going.
Mm-hmm.
All right then. Well, I don't know. My opinion is I'd probably just pick this up because then I could just experiment with all the Titans. And I mean, you could just buy the book.
Yeah, you can just buy the
by
book
itself,
separately.
really.
I'm sure
Or with the templates, I guess, right?
Yeah.
If they're still doing that deal.
You could get the rules set. Yep.
It's great to have options.
Yeah. So, sounds like it's a good deal. Going with John says, if it is $185.
Yes.
And that Titan is $165. Great deal. Moving on, we got Blood Bowl. And what I got to say about that is, moving on, we got.
One thing I want to mention on Blood Bowl that I think is funny before we move on to
Okay.
I'll leave it in oblivion. So Griff Uberwald and Verag Gulchewer have new models that Forge World is putting out. Do you know off the top of your head, Matt, when the last time these two characters got models?
When these two specifically got models?
Yeah.
God, I never even followed Blood Bowl, but I'm going to assume it was when the game first came out.
These guys got new models from Forge World 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
These are special characters who have had a new miniature produced for them like 4 years after they got their last rework. Isn't that funny?
That is a bit strange.
We were talking about it just before the cast. Actually, there are a couple minute characters like that who have like really close release dates to two different versions of themselves. The one John brought up was, of course, 40K Gilliman and Horus Heresy Gilliman have a pretty close window between their release. It's just funny.
I think Magnus is the shortest though. Will I think it's a year.
Yeah, that was the one that came to me after that. Is that Magnus the Red got his pre-demon version and his post-demon version very, very close together.
What about where does Morty fall into this?
He's also fairly close. I mean, he's within at least a decade of another model coming out. But if you think
like 5 years.
Yeah, but like if you think about things like Abaddon, where it was like 20 years, it took 2 decades to get Abaddon the Despoiler, like the main antagonist of Warhammer 40,000, to get a new model, and Griff Oberwald got 2 new models in 4 years.
Well, that's the
Obviously,
priority for you.
here's the thing though. Abaddon is a space marine. Clearly, Games Workshop hates space marines.
Well, he's a Chaos Space Marine, so we all know that they hate Chaos Space Marines.
That is right.
Okay, well,
Anyway, you can move on now.
we can move on from this little section, which I think we got Black Library, which I think we've already. I don't know. Are you guys gonna read these books? I don't
The
really.
Alfarius book has been getting rave reviews. This is one of those books that like they released a like a collector's edition of it that was like limited run before the standard release of this one. This I will definitely be picking up. It's kind of cool too because the author is sort of a wild card for Black Library as well. He's written for Black Library a couple times before, but he's kind of an interesting guy. Like if you like look him up, he looks like a Necromunda ganger. Like he has like a mohawk, and like he just kind of he uh, he seems like somebody who would be into Warhammer. But apparently he did a solid job with this book. Have you heard much about this one, John?
I haven't. I'm probably gonna spoil it to myself right now as you're speaking.
It's this book is also cool because it's written in first person, which is very unusual for a Horus Heresy novel, and certainly one about a Primarch. So I'm looking forward to picking this up.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know much about. I haven't read really much of the Horus Heresy. I read the first 4 books. I want to say. Which one was the Escape from? No,
Flight of
not
the Eisenstein.
yeah, Flight of the Einstein. That was the
Yeah, it's
last
a
book I
solid.
read, and that was oh god, that was like 5 years ago. I read
Yeah,
that book.
I think that's book 5. So if you read the ones before that, it's a good amount of pages you tore down reading the story.
Yeah, well, I heard that you only have to read like the first 4 or 5 books, and then from there it's go in whatever order you want.
It's a little choose your own adventure with Horus Heresy, because I'm of the opinion that not every book is worth reading. You can kind of just read like the best of the best, and you can probably muddle your way through. With the exception of the opening trilogy, you got to read in order, and the Siege of Terra probably should be read in order. And there's probably a few key books you got to read before jumping to the last part of the series. But I mean, I think there's of the numbered mainline Horus Heresy novels, I want to say there's at least 70 books. That might be wrong, but I know there's got to be more than 60 of them, and like full length novels too.
Man, you just say these high numbers, and I'm just like, man, I do not look forward to that series.
I think Horus Heresy is probably one of the biggest sci-fi book series about a single storyline. Because, like, I can't really think of other books with like 70 in the series, that are all interconnected, part of a grand narrative. Usually, I mean, Star Wars has like a billion novels.
I was incorrect. There's 59 books,
That's a lot still.
but yeah, you're right, John. I struggle to think off the top of my head. Though to be fair, it is like dozens of authors as well.
Oh
Right,
yeah,
exactly. And
But yeah,
it's
you
not a
make a good point.
monumental task of like coordinating all of that and make sure, like, I mean, obviously not even minor, there's some major inconsistencies with characters at times, but overall you know like in the opening trilogy, like, Loken fights Abaddon, like everyone knows that kind of thing. Karn fights Erebus, and that's not contradicted in future novels. Or
and it's just a lot of history to go through, which for people who really enjoy the Warhammer world, and especially this era of Warhammer, you got a lot to dissect and a lot of world to go through.
mm-hmm.
It's just finding the time to put all that. Which thank God audiobooks exist, because that's how I primarily take into my content now.
There's a
So
lot to like about it. I think I'm trying to think like maybe like like Discworld has like a bunch of books. It's probably like 40 books or something, which is nowhere close to Horus Heresy. But that's like one mad genius writing a bunch of books
Yeah.
over the course of like 50 years.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you are right, John. It is a pretty staggering achievement. I mean, if one were to lowball and say half of those books are good, then there's a lot of good stuff put on paper here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then speaking of paper, there's this map.
Yes, this map.
What is
The
this?
scale of the Imperial Palace and the damned map.
Imperial Palace.
A full-color A2 size reproduction of the limited edition release of the gorgeous Siege of Terra map.
What do you do with this when you have it?
Put it on a wall. Like, I mean, it's cool, but it's like it's not very evocative of like you know Warhammer. Like, if I was gonna have a poster up of something cool from Horus Heresy, I would have like the Betrayer cover or something, or like the No Fear cover. Not like this this freaking map of the Himalayas in the year 30,000.
And you know,
I feel like this would be like a fun like mouse pad.
well, I think it's a poster, right? So
It is a poster, yeah, but it's
don't
just
think-
like
It's also not by Neil Roberts. Like yeah, like a Neil Roberts like heresy print would be like the thing that occurs of like put this on your wall.
well, I mean, I'm not positive on this, so I don't really know. But has there ever been a map of the Golden Throne or
oh no, this is the first one. This is the first one of its kind. So it's actually kind of cool seeing the Imperial Palace, but like I don't know about getting the map.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this would ever live up to your imagination of, you know, reading the book and all the grand scale and then seeing this piece of paper being like, yeah, this isn't what I thought it would be, kind of deal.
It's pretty big. I mean, if it's A2, right? It's like a 16 by 23 inches, not feet. So it's yeah, this is an interesting release. I imagine there will be people who are like super hyped for it, but because it also looks like it's like has like a leather backing, or maybe that's just like a tube that it goes in.
I think that's a tube, yeah.
Okay, that's a tube.
Keep it safe. Yeah.
Keep it secret so that your parents never find out.
Maybe I'll listen to the series again. It's been a while since I listened to Siege of Terra.
Well, just something little interesting, little fact to have, you know. As you can read along how chaos is just destroying the Imperium before Big Daddy Emperor goes up and smacks Horus around a little bit.
I don't know. Maybe it might change some stuff. We'll see. They already changed a lot of things, actually. So.
Well, you would know more than me because, like I said, I only read the first 4 or 5 books, so.
A lot of changes already in the Horus Heresy, in the Siege of Terra specifically.
Well, maybe when the series ends, we'll get into that spoiler territory.
Yes, down for that.
But I think I want to move on to our next thing, which is a new model Monday. I know they said that they were getting rid of it, but here we are. We got new models on Monday.
They did it anyway with 2 models.
Yeah. Let's just
2
go in
model
order
Monday.
here. So we got.
Yeah. Side note: Warhammer Age of Sigmar fans are joyous. Every week this month we're showcasing a new miniature set to start in the upcoming Broken Realms book. It just straight up, yeah, this is new model Monday again.
There you go.
Specifically for Warhammer Age of Sigmar fans.
The previous ones were all Age of Sigmar, no?
I think majority of them were. I'm pretty.
Well, it was Bellicor. So it was Bellicor, the 2 vampires, and then there would have been one more, and it escapes me.
Oh, the sister.
It was the sister.
Ah, yes.
So the last one was 40k. Couldn't get away with just.
But all the good ones were Age of Sigmar.
True.
Yes.
That is accurate.
And we got 2 more good ones here.
Yeah, so let's start with the old man, shall we? He's the first one that pops up. Are you guys liking this witch hunter kind of guy? Inquisitor.
He's really cool. He's really freaking cool. And I hate humans. Actually, I don't hate humans. I'm not very fond of humans.
You're human, John. How could you say that?
Exactly. Hence why I interact with humans every day. There's a lot of humans I love, and which makes me not as excited to see more humans in my fantasy miniature war game.
It, I agree with that. Even in jest and somewhat in truth, I think the thing that's cool about this is like, even though I've never played a primarily in Warhammer anyway, I've never played like a primarily like regular human sort of army. It does elevate the fantasy to see someone who has no superpowers, who is just flesh and bone and lives presumably up to 65 years or older, like with proper hygiene and dental care. Like this is a regular human in a fantastical world, and that heightens the fantasy. Like considering like what this human, if he's just some old guy, like who has no magic powers, like what he could do in like a world that is designed to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool for that reason alone. The sculpt fidelity is, of course, amazing. Like he's just like bristling with details. I also like that he has like a bedroll, which is cool and kind of adds a little bit of like down to earth quality for this model. I also like that he has like a giant Sigmarite pin, which is like a literal scarlet letter. It's like a Nathaniel Hawthorne. Like there it is right there, hunting witches.
That is kind of funny that it's an S. Like
S for
cause it's like it should be the comment, right? It's like you're having
Probably.
like a Christian or Catholic symbol, but it's a J for Jesus instead of the cross. Like,
It's like we didn't have space. S for Sigma.
S for just kind of funny to me.
Galen is really cool. Also, his fire on the torch is really really nice. This is also this has got to be like a first for Warhammer of like a father daughter like combo. I mean, there's
Yeah,
not a lot of daughters who have miniatures aside from the Daughters of Cain.
Yeah, let's look at the daughter then.
there's no Kane miniature, so
Duralia is really cool. Aside from like, not just to mention the fact that she can wear a hat as well, which is a cool thing about both of these models, that they have multiple poses and like they have more than one way you can build them. Um, I also enjoy her giant crossbow.
yeah,
It
it's a
is
huge
a
crossbow.
huge crossbow.
It's like if this is like Warhammer Fantasy, that's a comedically large crossbow. Age of Sigmar is totally fine.
Yeah, Age of
Yeah,
Sigmar, we're all here for it. Those Troggoths are big.
yeah. I didn't even really notice, but yeah, man, that's a huge. That's almost as tall as her.
Yeah.
Damn.
But I mean, the
Shooting
cool
like a
thing about it
ballista.
too is like, I mean, if you had a crossbow that big, as long as you could brace it and aim it, like, it's the same. Probably fires the same as a normal crossbow. You pull the ring, and then the thing dies on the other end of the battlefield. So it's actually kind of a fun choice. I like that she has like a sidearm, sword as well. But like, it's these two models complement each other very well.
Yeah, it's a excuse me. It's a very nice model. I prefer the witch hat because iconic for the witch hunters. I would definitely put that on.
Yeah, Galen doesn't have one, but I feel like it's cool that one of them does.
Of course, you gotta keep
Also,
that.
if one of them was gonna have it, now I realize like she's the only female witch hunter model.
Is she?
Yeah.
Well, I guess in
Um,
current Age of Sigmar, right?
if you don't count if you don't count the Inquisitors in 40k, like we have Inquisitor Greyfax who has like a similar hat. But like for Age of Sigmar and for Warhammer Fantasy, I'm pretty sure this is it for ladies who go shoot vampires with giant crossbows and have their dad come with them.
I'd have to take your word on that because I don't really know myself. I never got into the fantasy lore really.
I do hope we get some some more units. Actually, meta commentary. Every Broken Realms book has come out with a new battle tome for a new range of models. Morathi had the Slanesh release, right? Broken Realm Techless had the new Lumineth release.
Yeah, half of Australia, came out with that. So.
Yep, there you go. And we're assuming Broken Realms Bellicor will hopefully have. Maybe it's these guys. Maybe we're gonna see Order of Vizier or something.
Yeah,
And I would
things
actually
for
pick
him
that
to
up.
break.
I would pick this up in like a box of regular humans for Warcry or something.
Yeah, these are really cool. Oh man, regular humans and higher fidelity sculpts and like better proportions. That's another thing about this miniature too. Galen in particular, it's a little harder to tell for Duralia because she's in like a cloak, but Galen's proportions are great. I mean, bellissimo son of a mama. Just chef sounds all around. Look at the arm to chest ratio. Just works.
It just works.
That's a solid old man.
It is, and it's great models. And I guess next week we'll have a new model Monday for.
Age of Sigmar.
I don't know. I don't know what to expect, honestly, from Age of Sigmar. I would assume more Soulblight units.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Graveguard, please. I don't want many skeletons to be with the old Graveguard.
Also for Soulblight, even though we've seen a lot of really cool like cavalry and troopers and infantry and stuff like that, sort of would be thinking there would be at least one big centerpiece model. Even though they've already got some with the Mortarks, but I wonder. I wonder what else we'll see for that, if anything. If nothing else comes, it's going to be great. But there's always room for more.
I think they need some more. I mean, they got skeletons, zombies, the Soulblight, Empire Lord,
Dire wolves
couple of other
are the
characters.
ones that a lot of people
Dire wolves, yeah.
forums have been talking about. Which is funny because I don't think those models are anywhere near as bad as the things that have already been confirmed to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you think they would add, Matt?
Yeah, dire wolves would definitely be a staple of the army, at least going from what I remember of my games in fantasy. I'm trying to remember what else would be there.
I mean, like all the Soulblight we've seen are all resculpts. There's nothing new outside, outside Curse City, right?
Outside of Curse City, yeah. Well, I mean, you're literally just taking vampire counts and just updating their models. Honestly, that's all you're really doing with the army. You don't really need to add anything.
Yeah, it's like Black Knights, Soul, Graveguard, and Direwolves, and you're kind of good to go. Yeah, I was talking with Will, one of our friends, the other day, for hobbying, and we're getting the Age of Sigmar hype going. Which is funny that our friends are used to see this Sigmar, and like these new guys were just teased today, which is a great coincidence. But anyways, I'm gonna do vampires. I think I mentioned in the podcast before that I'm committing to that right now when the models come out. And if there was no new units and it was just resculpts of old stuff I bought before when I played fantasy, I'm fine with that. See, new skeletons are amazing. Blood Knights are amazing. So
let's hope they're not $100.
They're probably gonna be $60 since you're getting the kangaroos are $60.
That's good.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they were more than that. I don't think they're gonna do what they did with the Varan Guard anytime soon. But yeah, these are great models. Super hyped for them. Very characterful, and I can imagine a lot of people picking them up who have no intention of doing an army with them, who just want them to paint them and use them in RPGs and stuff.
Well, before we go into our next topic here, this will tie in with it. Do you think these models would be get like a little data card for Curse City?
That would be amazing. It would cost them like 0 resource.
I would hope so. I think I would be. I mean, these models would be such a great fit for it. Even it actually would be kind of cool if they were one character with 2 miniatures. Like if they had one card, kind of like the 2 halflings from Blackstone Fortress.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm guessing this is going to be like a character unit for Age of Sigmar. Like you'll take them both as like sort of two solos together. Um, it would be really awesome if they added them to Cursed City because they fit so thematically well. It seems like Cursed City is at the moment sort of holding back a little bit on like putting too many things into it, but this is such an obvious fit in. I feel like that's going to happen for sure.
Yeah, well, ever since they you'll have to help me on the name, Will, since you remember it. That vampire, the Vampire Lord. Ever since he got added in, I mean, it could be possible.
or is it Kriza? Because the video and his original post changed their names on that.
Couldn't tell you. But I mean, they added him, so possibility could be getting some cool witch hunters in there. Because I don't think there was any witch hunters in the starter set, if I recall.
There is one. There is a sort of more traditional witch hunter with the hat and with the pistol.
Oh, right. I can remember. Okay. Never mind then. Either way, still cool
But there's way
models.
more zombies than there are witch hunters in the Cursed City, so they could always use the help.
Accurate. Well, speaking of Cursed City, we can move on to our next topic here, which is Cursed City. Cursed City was available for pre-order this week or last
Indeed.
week, I guess, and in 10 minutes in, it was immediately gone.
20 minutes, sir. I waited.
You waited?
Yeah, I mean, I got it like -5 minutes. Because typically pre-orders go up at 10 a.m. and I got it at like 9:55.
Oh, so you got it early, huh?
I got it early. I was like, I need this. And
Snag.
yeah, it was up for 20 minutes because I was, I was at home. I didn't have anything to do on the afternoon. So I was like, all right, I'll see how far this. So I was painting some clones and like refreshing the page and seeing where it would go. And it was like, yeah, like 10, 20-ish. That's when it was sold out. It was longer than expected.
Glad to see there's interest. It's really cool, particularly for something like this. The previous Warhammer quests have not sold out. Blackstone Fortress eventually did, and I believe is still sold out online, even though they're making more. But people evidently were super hyped about this.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you too, since you guys both worked at GW. Had any of the other ones sold out before? But guess we just got the answer. None have ever sold out. Which
Selling out in person is different from selling out online, to be fair.
I mean, I think this is the best Blackstone. So not Blackstone. This is the best Warhammer quest that's come out, just in terms of the models. Like everyone's talking about it. I don't think I've heard anyone say it's not for me, or even like, oh, it's lame. It's like this is cool. Like it's a classic. Again, if you think back when this was announced, like when you think dungeon crawl and Warhammer, having like a creepy city fighting undead or chaos, usually it's what springs to mind. And this fits that bill of classic dungeon crawl with 2021 miniatures from Games Workshop.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there. This one also has the benefit of hindsight from the 3 previous Warhammer quests that they've done. So a lot of the early reviews of the game have been more positive than the previous ones, just because like it's particularly with point to like they have improved on systems that in the past made the Warhammer Quest games not as successful as they could have been. I mean, this one, uh, it's hard to tell. I was really early into GW, like working there when Silver Tower came out, but Silver Tower was a real blockbuster just because like it was so unheard of at the time. Like box games wasn't something Games Workshop was doing then. But even still, and as cool as that box is, this one is just has so much universal appeal.
yeah,
It's so easy to understand what's going on just by looking at the models. Like it tells its own story just by seeing the content of the box. Like you need only a little bit more context to kind of get what kind of game you'll be playing.
so you're saying marketing wise, this game did extremely well compared to most
They
of their
did a good
box
job.
games.
Hmm.
Well, it also helps that models were so beautiful as well. And as you pointed out, it is relatively simple in terms of figuring out what's going on, unlike
Yeah,
Silver Tower.
it's a very easily communicated theme. Silver Tower was something that miniature wise I really enjoyed, and that game unfortunately its big hang up was it was just a little too easy. Um, Even though it had a lot of like creative mechanics of like there were puzzles and stuff to do and like riddles to solve. Like it was as far as like exploring a Zinchian chaos labyrinth goes, it did that job very well. But it was also it's very clear that that was their first time with modern GW making a dungeon crawl game,
Mm-hmm.
and they've since refined and sharpened their skills for this one. So it makes sense that people were anticipating this and that it sold out so fast. It's a bummer for the people who are going to have more trouble trying to get it. And scalping is to be expected. But I'm just glad because it sends a big signal to Games Workshop that this is something that people like and that they should keep doing stuff like this.
Yeah, well, I hope it, doesn't burn out as fast as something like Blackstone Fortress, because that game couldn't hold my interest at all, unfortunately. So I'm really looking forward to this one in particular. Even my gaming group, who don't play any Age of Sigmar, we're looking forward to this game. So it's got, like Will said, it's got a lot of hype around it, and I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
And John, you outlined well too that why this succeeded and why it's you were surprised that it lasted as long as it did.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get a copy, so I'll probably have to do like another 10 a.m. Get into my local Warhammer to pick this up,
That's gonna be the
just
way
like
to do
how
it.
I did with Piety and Pain.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's another early morning this week. Speaking of GW, since COVID is getting laxed, at least in our area, uh, stores are opening up and all that. How do you? I know John will be working. Maybe, I don't know, honestly, but I know he still works for GW. But how do you think the store situation will be going in there? You think it's still gonna be relatively the same, or will we be able to go back in and hobby and play a couple games?
I don't think so, considering the stores, GW stores are so small. Like you probably have like 2, 3 people at this, maybe 2 people at the store.
Mm.
Social distance. I mean, there's other game stores in the area who are much bigger and they're having very limited capacity. Like you can only be there for 3 hours at a time, and those are huge stores, you know. So I don't think GW. I mean, I don't know anything. They haven't really told me anything. I don't expect them to tell me anything, but they haven't really said. You know, like sorry, I am repeating myself, but I haven't. I don't think they'll have in-store activities besides buy stuff for the next few months, if not until like the fall or something.
I
Mm.
would not working for Games Workshop anymore, but I would predict they would be a key part of this reopening schedule would be to prioritize getting introductory games and introductory paint and build lessons available to new people. I think they're gonna try to make that happen because that's a key reason, or at least it was at the time when I was working for Games Workshop, and I guess it would be. Um, that's a huge part of why Games Workshop stores even exist, is to foster like the recruitment of new people and grow the hobby, and so that there can be more players.
Interesting. Well, I was hoping to go in and get a couple games in.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be backyard and garage and social distance hammer for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, again, like there's bigger stores like Gameology or Odyssey or those. They're gonna have indoor gaming soon, and by soon I mean like the next week or so. But it's very, again, like you're looking at a store that can normally host like 30 people, hosting maybe like 10 or less at a time, maybe 6. So
Yeah, well, I wonder if Warhammer would even be able to get into those uh, what would be the right word? General hobby stores. Just seeing how long it takes to get a game in table
right,
space when you can get someone like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon get a lot more games in a lot quicker, I would say, compared to a game of
right,
like Warhammer.
Unless I was under a rock, the Warhammer store and cafe in Los Angeles hasn't opened yet, right?
because of COVID, it's
I have not. I believe it's not open.
not open.
Yeah, I don't think that's open yet. Because that store would be of the scale to do limited gaming. But I imagine they're waiting until the time is right.
As most people are. But all right, well, I just wanted to see what the options were. I knew John worked at it's part-time worker at GW, so I was hoping he'd have some insight, but I guess
No,
we're
they don't tell
still
me anything.
guess we're still waiting on that information.
John has a lot of insights on lots of things, but sometimes GW likes to keep lots of secrets too. You know lots of stuff. Unlike
No,
that
they,
is
they haven't told me anything since 2020, like before the pandemic. I've known nothing. I don't say anything.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
interesting. Well,
yeah.
I know Will had a discussion point he wants to bring up, so I'll let you take it away, Will.
Sure. So before our listeners immediately turn this off, so something that I saw relatively recently, just like my YouTube feed came up, is like this discussion about like when is it okay to say no to a game before it begins. Um, it's an interesting thing to me because I have sometimes we run into people at like our local gaming group, or if we have a larger group of friends or acquaintances, acquaintances in particular that we like play Warhammer with. There will be some people you want to play with more than others, for the reasons of like either you just get along better with other people, or like they bring a list that destroys the only army that you have pretty routinely, particularly in a game like Warhammer 40,000 that can be so lethal in the initial turn. So I just kind of wanted to know what your guys' experiences were on this, because I know both of you have played probably at least 100 plus games of Warhammer and various other war games in your long, illustrious dice rolling careers. Have you ever refused to play a game with someone?
I have never refused to play a game because I wanted to play. And sorry, let me rephrase this. I've never refused a game from person A and then immediately accepted person B's request like shortly after. Usually, if I refuse a game from someone, I'm probably not in the mood to play at all, or like leave, or whatever reason, right? Like, but I've never refused to play a game from someone and then accept another game from someone else, unless it's planned, right? But like, I haven't like, you, this is this person I want to play. I'm just that kind of person. Like, if I have my list, then I'll just, if I'm play a game, I tend. But yeah, if the person isn't a very fun person that I know of, then I'll just bring like a stomping list and just like kind of practice like my deployment. you know, like,
Limit the suffering of yourself. It's like, I'll just destroy
uh,
them and bask in
yeah, because
victory.
there's some things I want to practice, like especially with 40k where it's very combo heavy turn ones, especially in 8th edition, even 7th. You know what? I don't want to smash like my buddies immediately without having them. So like, I'm just gonna test it on this rando. Test my Raven Guard turn one deploy like redeployment redeploying 6 aggressors in your face type of deal. So that's my answer. How about you? What have you, Matt?
Um, I don't think I've ever refused a game. I usually play anyone who challenges me. But that being said, I mean there are players that I avoid. Either I played them and they're just not fun to play against. A key example is like back when I used to work at Game Over. There was just one guy who would always show up every Saturday when I was working, who always wanted to play a game of 40k, and it was just I got to the point where I'm like, I don't want to play you anymore. I play you every week. It's the same list. It's the same game. Usually with very little difference in results that happen. And I was just like, I can't. I don't want to play you anymore. Kind of deal. That's a
So
different
it did,
situation though, because I mean I
but
worked
it did
there.
reach a point.
It did reach a point, but this was back in 7th edition, where grav weapons were king. So this guy was just running a whole army of grav weapons, and me running my craft world Eldar, mainly aspect warriors, was all right. I'm gonna take all my grav weapons and I'm gonna destroy like 3 units a turn. It's just like, all right, great, cool. When is this game gonna be over? This is pain.
Yeah, and your free time is precious, right?
Well, I
And
mean,
like,
I was working, so I was
and you
there to
can't.
just like accommodate because who's no one's coming in this early on a Saturday usually, and
Yeah,
if anyone did, it was usually they with like a friend or something.
that's a position where it's very difficult to turn it down.
Yeah.
Even if it sounds like it was, not the most fun or stimulating game to play. Uh, it's funny how that happens because I have been in positions too where like basically working at managing games workshops where it's very hard to have much hobby time for yourself anyway. But sometimes when it's really slow, like you bust out the shop army or your army and you play with someone who otherwise is not getting any games in and is like otherwise a useful customer member of your community. But there are also just certain people that you'd rather not spend 3 hours playing with.
Yeah.
And like how do you broach that, like with this fellow, with gravity Greg, like how did you how did you break the news to him that like you didn't feel like putting your Eldar down just so you could put him back in your case?
Oh god, what did I do? I mainly just blamed it on work, really. I was like, I can't right now. I gotta, help out customers with all this other stuff. Bosses, I can't play, kind of deal. That's how I pretty much broke the news to him that I didn't want to play him anymore in a gentle way.
It's funny because I see, so then even myself, like I have basically never refused a game with someone. But it's funny because I see people do that all the time. When I was working at Games Workshop, just like, yeah, I'm not going to play with that guy anymore. Like his list is too cheesy, or like, I always lose. It typically comes down to like a game thing. Like sometimes personality, like it like inevitably becomes part of that conflict. But it's always like, oh, well, I mean, if I'm going to play like that, if you're just going to put down all those, wraith nouns or like whatever thing it was that they lost to previously, they're just like, yeah, I'm not going to play that, and I'm also thinking of selling my army and buying this other list that I saw online.
Oh yeah, I've dealt with a lot of those kind of people, especially when I used to run the tournament. I have a If Travis was here, he would know who I'm talking about. I'd have a famous guy who would always just bring in an army. He'd lose the tournament. He's like, I'm selling my army, and he would. He would sell his army, and then the next tournament, he would bring in a new army. He'd lose with that. He's like, I'm selling this army, and it was just every time. And then we started doing painting contests, and if he didn't win the painting contest, he'd be like, I can't believe I lost. It's ridiculous selling this. I'm like,
Selling the thing he painted. I thought you were gonna be like, I can't believe I lost the painting contest. Fine, I'll take up fishing. I'm gonna go get my rod and my worms. I'm gonna go catch a fish. He catches a crab. I'm gonna become a mountain biker.
I mean, if anything, like that guy, I wouldn't want to play. I mean, I've played against him. He's not a fun player to go against. He was obviously one of those power gamers, which is fine. You're always gonna have power gamers, but he would just try to. It was always a confrontation with him, especially when it comes to rules and stuff.
That's why I like John's elegant solution of just like, why not destroy them?
Yeah, just like like play a turn one alpha strike, and if I lose, well, then I lose. I learned.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, majority of the time I play. I usually play everyone that I can, and then I usually judge if I want to play this guy again. Majority of the time, my experience with those players usually fun. I usually have a good time. They have a good time. I mean, that's how I met Greg. I met Greg at LVO 2018, and we became friends. Now he's part of the cast, and now we go to the LVO like went to the LVO the next year. But I think now that I'm remembering it correctly, there was a game that I did refuse, and usually I've figured out my reason why I usually refuse games. It becomes on how much of a rules Nazi they are,
Mm.
right? So back when fantasy was fantasy, I always played a game against this one guy, and he was just such a heavy rule Nazi. I get to the point where I'm like, I don't want to play anymore, man. You're gonna scrutinize every single rule. Tell me how to play my army. It's like I don't need this. I don't need you to tell me how to play. I don't need to know my rule is wrong when I've read it directly out of the book to you. Like I don't want to play anymore. This is not fun. I think that's the only time I ever refused playing a game with anyone again. It was just that one guy. Everyone else, I make a choice not to play against, depending on how the game goes.
I imagine that guy didn't get a lot of games after a certain point. In a community this small, I mean, our community is a miniature community, and it's pretty miniature compared to like Magic the Gathering and video games. But like reputations, like carry some weight. Like you can tell like who the people are who are kind of like pariahs who just like they
Oh,
show up and they circle around the store with their models. Anyone down for a game?
absolutely.
No one's down for a game. Or they're down for a game, but they're not down to play that guy.
Right. I mean, that's how is this is how I see the hobby, really. Right. When you got those people who want to play the game, especially when you go to a local Warhammer store or general store in general. That was redundant, but I mean, you build up your reputation. There's a couple guys from the Warhammer store that I know didn't have a great reputation to be playing against, but people were desperate enough to get a game and they sucked it up and just played against him. So I don't know if they had fun, but
I will say, I do remember this one gentleman at the Warhammer store playing Custodes and Stormcast, and you guys know who it is. And that guy was famous for just playing anyone, and that to me was like that was respect on my part because he didn't give a crap. He's like, "You want a game? All right, I'm gonna bust out the bananas or the Stormcast."
And and
Oh.
his rare defeats tended not to bother him.
Yeah, he's like, "Okay, I lost. Well played, sir."
So something that was kind of a leading question about this, like when is it okay to refuse a game thing? I think the fact that both of you, having played so many games and been to so many different events and stuff, have sort of struggled to think about if you had any stories of refusing a game, shows that like you're more. It kind of speaks to the like your characters as gamers, that you're like more willing to like yeah, like I can play that, I can play with anybody. Like that guy you're talking about, John. That guy would play anybody. Never
Yeah.
turned down a game. People would turn him down because they were like, oh, he's he's too cheesy. He beat me. He was a better strategist, and I lost, and I refused to change my ways, and it's not fair. Like that guy, the the golden man, the golden one, we'll call him. With his custodians and his stormcast, like he, he got to play more games. He had more fun. Like I think when it gets to the point that you're refusing games for, unless you have a really good reason, like the two games that you brought up, Matt, that you turned down, I feel like you get a lot farther in this hobby by like playing with people who are different from you and like challenging yourself to also improve. Like if you're, because a lot of people like won't play because like, oh, that list is just gonna kill me. Like, oh, okay, well, what are you gonna do about it then?
On the flip side, though, there's also the people who like the importance of the gaming experience is the gaming experience itself. So they only play for a good gaming experience. They don't care about testing those. They don't care about winning or losing even. They just care about that this is going to be a good game I'm going to enjoy. And we know people like that, and they're very picky about who they play because like they have very limited hobby time for whatever reason. Maybe they have kids or something, or they're busy with work, and they are like, yeah, like I'll only play with cool people because if in my rare hobby time, I want to spend it with a good experience or having a good experience, not just like because again, it goes back to like some people winning or practicing isn't as important. They just want to have a good time.
Yeah, and that's even to me like that's it's funny because like I guess that is like refusing games to certain people, but that's more about like I'm gonna seek out people that I'm gonna enjoy gaming with because my gaming time is really limited, and like
Yeah,
I want it to be as high quality as possible if I play. I feel that way like myself. It used to be where I would just like you know I would in my youth I would just like play anybody, just like get more reps in or play the game more. But like it is if you're sitting down for a big game, committing a pretty significant part of your afternoon or your evening or whatever, right? Um, yeah. So anyway, fellas, I thought that was interesting just to hear your stories about that.
well, I
Um,
mean, in the end, I don't know. I would assume this would be for majority people. In the end, you're playing the game for fun, right? I mean, no one's playing
Absolutely.
this game for purely competitive reasons, except for the people who make money off this in tournaments and stuff. Majority of the people are just playing this game for fun, to play with friends. So I mean, you shouldn't really deny any games unless, you know, if the personality or whatever, like with my guy being a rules Nazi, if that just sucks the fun out of playing the game, then why would you ever play, right?
And I mean, what I would wonder too is like, was that game even fun for that guy? Like, I mean, maybe if he won and like winning is all that he cares about, and there certainly are people like that. Like, it probably is okay to turn down a game, like you were saying, John, if like it just doesn't seem like the game's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, it's pretty rare to see somebody really, really enjoy a game that their opponent is not having any fun at all, except for Golden Man because he just destroys all who come before him and revels in the slaughter. But like it's, you can kind of like if the opponent is not having fun and is really not having fun, it's pretty difficult to enjoy the other side of that equation. At least it is for me.
Well, I mean, no one enjoys being uh ferociously being stomped into the ground during a game, not being able to kill anything you want to be able to have fun moments into the game, and having a winning chance would always be great. No one wants a one-sided battle where the other opponent doesn't get to do anything, which is my advice to people here is don't bring a giant centerpiece and not expect it to be shot off like turn one, because most giant centerpieces are very intimidating, especially if they don't do anything really. Most people are going to be like, that's big and scary, I'm going to destroy that as soon as possible, and then be extremely upset when it actually dies like turn one before you get to use it. That's the reality. I would try to just play around not doing that, unless you're confident it's going to live.
So I guess then what I learned then from this, Matt, and is that my next game, because I've actually never played with you, I should bring a big centerpiece model, and when it dies, I'm going to see that the game sucks and that your army is overpowered. Is that what you're telling me to do?
I mean, you wouldn't be the first.
Oh, so there's a tradition then. That's good. I
I've
look forward to joining the tradition.
In my entire career of Warhammer, I've had two people tell me that I've ruined the game for them and they quit the hobby.
That's amazing.
I don't.
Nice work.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Making somebody like quit the whole game, that is but you've saved the rest of the wargaming community from those individuals.
I mean, I'm sorry that my 13-year-old self was just too good at the game to make a grown man quit the game.
That is not something I'll ever experience again. Is being a kid in the hobby and playing against grown-ups in the store, because like at our shop, John, or your shop, when I was there, that we had a regular who was I wanted he was 12 or something. Like he was pretty young. He had a couple kids at the store. It was a family store, but a kid is in the best possible position when they're playing a game against a grown up, because if they lose, you're a kid. It's okay, you're a kid. And that guy's like 48, and if you win, you're a god. And for the 48-year-old, you lost to a kid or you beat a kid in Warhammer.
I
You
mean,
really revel in that.
can never can never predict the dice rolls. You know, fate might not be on your side that day. Zinch might be playing with your dice.
The kid always wins.
Kid always wins in the end. That is true. But yeah, if I could just tell that story really fast, because I am kind of proud of it, and then I am
I
a
mean,
little
we
sad.
gotta hear it.
We gotta hear it now.
So this is fifth edition, I believe.
Oh god.
So this is where you got star cannons that are strength 6, 3 shots, AP 2. And John would know that Warhammer Northridge was primarily just Space Marines.
Yes, I was one of
So
them.
yeah, so I tailored my list to completely annihilate Space Marines. If I fought against Orcs, Tyranids, and sometimes IG, depending if they were Hordy, I would always lose. But Space Marines, I wiped off the floor. So I just stacked up a bunch of star cannons. All my Falcons had star cannons on them, and I would just the entire Dark Angel player off the board. And he just slammed his fist on the table. He said, "Fuck you," and then he packed up and left. And then I never saw him again in that store. And then he came into where I worked.
Oh, game ogre.
He came into Game Ogre one day and he saw me. He's like, I'm like, "Oh, hey man, what's up? It's been a long time." He's like, "Yeah, well, I quit the game because of you." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that." And yeah, I felt proud and sad at the same time. Because I mean, like, I'm not. I mean, it's not like I was trying to destroy his hobby. I didn't do it on purpose or anything. It's just that was his life choice. He's just like, I quit the hobby. This game's obviously bullshit.
I mean, it's his problem, right? At the end of the day, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and unfortunately, you know, some people just so, most humans are babies at one point, and some people are babies forever. You know,
Yeah.
Some
just
people are babies forever.
can't fix that really.
No.
Kind
But
of sounds like that was a great victory for the greater area of hobbyists that you played with. If also he remembered years later, like, I quit because of you. Like, yeah, great. What can I help you with today?
Would you like to purchase the new Dark Angel Codex?
You want to get the new Dark Angel Codex so you can, go and make memories with this, 8-year-old playing Tyranids over here who's gonna beat you.
yeah, it was
That's
great.
great.
I loved it. I loved every second of it.
So who was the second person that you got to GG on the entire hobby?
Okay, so this was a Warhammer tournament that my friend ran. This was after Games Workshop Northridge shut down. So I think we went to Emerald Knight, is what I want to say.
In
But
Burbank?
yeah,
Yeah. Familiar with that story.
we went up there, played that game. I'm just gonna put some notes out there. I was very terrible at Warhammer Fantasy. I only really played it because the gaming group that I was a part of at that time preferred fantasy over 40k. So I was
You
like,
played Tomb Kings, right?
I did play Tomb Kings.
Worst army in the game. Well, actually, second worst. Beastmen are worst.
How could you say that to me? But this was before they got their new book, or but what was it? 7th edition book, I think.
8th edition book.
They got a new book before 8th edition. 8th edition was last, right?
Yeah, they got one right at 8th edition.
I think they were the first book of 8th edition, I want to say.
I thought they got one at 7th. Whatever, doesn't matter. So this was before they got that book. So they were still in like 4th ed or 3rd ed. I don't really remember. So I ran the Kalita gun line with all my poison arrows. I had a Tomb King and a chariot, and I was against a chaos player. Turn 2, I charged my Tomb King into the side of his one of his flanks. And I won combat. He fled, and because his whole army was in a nice line, that one unit ran through into the edge of the board and ran off. And everyone he ran through had to roll leadership tests. And yeah, you can see where this is going for his army.
Yep, that's awesome.
His entire army basically failed morale test and ran away off the board. And that was the game. That game only lasted about 2 turns. And he packed up his army and he left the tournament. That was the first round, by the way.
That's awesome.
And that was the best Tomb Kings game I've ever had in my life because the rest of that tournament I got clapped.
Flawless victory.
Oh yeah, it was great.
That dude is probably posting on Facebook to this very day that like 5th edition fantasy was the best, and like he always won.
Well, this was what was Skull and Pass? That
Oh, that
was
was sixth.
6th edition. So this
Sorry,
was
excuse me. That was seventh. That was seventh.
all right. So this was 7th edition that I was playing.
That's
I never played any of the. I didn't play the older editions of fantasy. But yeah, those are my two stories of making probably destroying the people's hobbies. I don't know about that guy. I never saw him again, but
No one ever did to this day.
I mean, you don't need to say that. I mean, come on, I'm sure someone saw him.
I mean, aside from his Facebook posts about how 3rd edition fantasy, which he wasn't alive for, was the best game ever. You know, only whispers on the wind now. He's joined the legends of the past.
But yeah, that was my best fantasy game ever. After
That's
that, yeah, I got a little bit better in fantasy, but majority of the time I just get clapped. But
Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for story time, Uncle Matt.
no problem.
Will you sign my book? Details the rise and fall of Matt's Tomb Kings.
The rise and fall. It's when Age of Sigmar got announced, and then there's like, yeah, your army's still technically in the game. It's just never gonna get any updates. It's like, oh, great, so happy. Though, from what I understand, they were doing great early on in the Age of Sigmar life, tournament wise.
They were very strong. For they were basically very strong even with General's Handbook 1. Um, they there was a lot of skeletal archery that was very powerful, and Screaming Skull catapults were a nightmare. In like Grand Alliance Deathless, because Death has like no guns. Because when Manfred von Karstein wants to get his soldiers to go take down those whatever Sigmarites are standing across the field from his mighty army of Sylvania, like he looks, okay, where are my riflemen? And the fell bat just like squeaks at him. We have no riflemen.
Well then, got any more things to add to this topic before we go to hobby rants?
I think that's it.
That was pretty cool.
All right then, let's start with let's go with the hobby rant stuff. What do you guys want to do? Let's go with Will.
Well, what I want to do is I want to build and paint Cursed City, but Cursed City is not legally available to me at this moment. So I'm just gonna sit in this room in the dark until it comes out.
Did you get Cursed City?
I did, but I must wait.
So you two both got it. Wow, you guys were on that.
Oh, we're hyped about this game.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of forgot, and then I got a message from my friends like, "Man, Cursed City's gone already." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was today."
That's $200 more you still have.
I think Will's getting it in person while I ordered it online, so
you're waiting that extra day.
John has revealed
extra 2 weeks.
Yeah, John has revealed the card. I did not make it in time for the pre-order. So I have my name on a piece of paper stuck to a building, and I will get there on the day. I will be first in line, and I will get my thing, and then run to my car while people claw at me trying to take my Cursed City.
Cackling away.
Yes.
As you've got the only box in store.
That's required.
What about you, John?
I got Cursed City, but right now, actually, I was talking to Will and our friend Tom the other day. I actually don't know what to work on next. I mean, I'm painting some clones because like I was a clone painting mood. But in terms of future armies, I mean, I have my white scars I want to work on for 30K, but I usually work two things at once, so I don't get bored of painting the same thing. So I don't know. Cursed City probably, but that's probably gonna lead into vampires. So I think I'm heading in the direction of just like going back to Age of Sigmar hype, and building a vampire counts army for Warcry and AOS. So that's that. Been playing more Star Wars Legion last week, getting some more games in, so that was awesome. I think I played Will during the week and I got destroyed, and then I played him on the weekend and he got destroyed. So tied week there between the clones and the
so it was nothing was accomplished.
Nothing was accomplished.
Which is how it should be. All is balanced.
Sounds like the Jukari game that I got in last week, which I finally got. I finally got my book. Finally got a game in with them.
Nice.
Yeah, how'd it go?
I had my book for like 2 hours before I got into a game, so I might have scuffed a few rules, but I'm gonna definitely need more time. But I'm liking how they feel, though. I mean, didn't have to change too much. The covens are a bit weaker than I expected, unfortunately. Just in survival wise. Without that 4-up invul save, that was a brutal reality check. As a Lord of Skulls just shot my grotesque off the board.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was interesting. Hopefully I'll get in some more games, but one game I did against Travis's Word Bearers. Or no, sorry, World Eaters. So the unbuffed Chaos Space Marines so far. And due to some very, very, very poor choices on my part, we ended the game in a draw. Which I found weird because I don't think I've ever gotten a draw in 8th edition or 9th edition as of that day.
An exact draw?
Yeah, we got an exact draw. It was close. It came down to a wire. I mean, if he had destroyed like one more vehicle, he would have won. But
he didn't.
He didn't.
So you got to go back. You got to play again.
I think if the game had gone on one more round, I would have cleaned him up. But yeah, it was a draw, and I was shocked. Like I said, I haven't gotten a draw in such a long time. I think 7th edition was the last time I ever gotten a draw. But let me tell you, liquefiers, basically flamethrowers, disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. You can definitely see a lot of those going around, especially if they take Dark Technomancers, as that will be flamethrowers at wound +1 and do AP2 at 2 damage. So definitely Space Marine Killy, which I like.
Are you gonna make another tier list video?
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be better than the one that I currently have because
the current one is great. I love the joke about the Lamian, like 7 minutes in. But it occurred to me like, hey, this is a great opportunity to do another tier list immediately afterwards.
Yeah, I think a lot more recent comments are getting onto that video. I think they're missing the point that that was made before the book came out, but
yeah, of course.
So
you should definitely do one now.
I mean, I will definitely do another tier list. Definitely learn from what helpful comments there were of what I should probably do. But yeah, I just need to get more games in before I can start making another tier list. Because I want to experiment a little bit more with the units. Especially a lot of the ones that got buffed, such as Hellions and Reavers and Scourges. A lot of those units that literally never saw any play in the last edition. So when I get those games in, I'll make another list and we'll see what happens. And then hopefully I'll be getting another game in this week. Hopefully against Greg and another one of my friends. So 2 more games. Maybe I'll make one of those a bat rep. We'll see what happens. But that's my plan. That's my rant. I mean, we did pretty good with that. When would you refuse a game kind of deal?
You would refuse a game if you know the person you're about to play will make you quit the hobby forever. Because you're gonna get destroyed so badly. Yes.
It's a game I don't play. Hey, would you like to play some Flames of War? No, because I don't have a Flames of War army. Sorry.
Yeah, I cannot grant your desire.
Actually, I have refused. Going back to this, unpainted 30k games with randos. like not fully painted.
You're gonna be one of those elite snobs.
Oh, I've always been that for Horus Heresy, only fully painted.
Maybe next week we should talk about should you paint your models and why.
You know what? That's a great discussion. I would have
Or
a lot
we could
of stuff to talk about on that one.
we could also give one word answers to that now, which is, I mean, yeah, you should definitely paint your damn models. But it is, you know, some do and some don't, and many commission others to paint it for them.
Yeah, I'd be glad to
So,
talk
yeah.
about that next time. We are getting to the end though, so I think this is a good stopping point right here. So once again, thank you, Will, for joining us. Hopefully, you'll be here next week for those discussion points.
Indeed, and thank you for telling us the story about how you destroyed those people that one time and changed the entire trajectory of their lives. And we also got to hear a little bit more about why John is revving up on vampire accounts, which is really the best decision you could possibly make.
Yeah,
It's just like HD vampire accounts, but in a game that has a future. I mean, what's not to like?
absolutely. It's pretty hype.
Well, going back to those
And if you
hobbies
want
that
to
I
play
destroyed.
Mm.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna talk about how Total War is the other version. If you ever want to do that in HD, like if you want to go play fantasy, you could just do that.
True. I want to just go back to the hobbies that I destroyed, apparently. Just imagine how much money I saved those guys. Now that they don't have to buy the plastic crack of GW. You should be thanking me.
It could have gotten into Magic.
Or War Machine and then ended up with a dead game.
Yeah, you could be playing War Machine and living in a cave.
Again, I
Ouch.
do feel bad about that sometimes. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's still just amazing that happened at such a
Their
young
problem.
age. It is
It
their
is
problem.
it is a great victory. All right. Well, until next time, friends.
I guess. Till next time.
Later, everyone.